I just want to give you a brief introduction if you've never heard about my work. I am a former social anxiety disorder sufferer, as I said, and I'm also a social confidence coach. I've been coaching people with social anxiety to overcome their social anxiety and feel calm and at ease in social situations since 2009. I ramble really quick because, I want to get into the interesting stuff. And what is the interesting stuff? Well, I'm gonna interview this man here, who's a former client who reached out yesterday or the day before by email saying, "Hey, I'm in Bali, want to meet up?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's go for lunch." And we were talking, and he's been doing very well. So I asked him the big question: "Do you want to do a little interview?" And he said, "Well, if some people could be helped by it, then yes." And yeah, people can definitely be helped by this. So yeah, it's a good time. All right, so I guess I'll ask questions and then we take it from there.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So it's always interesting for people to hear kind of what the pre-story is, or kind of what the situation itself was of the social anxiety.
Right.
Like why you reached out initially. So why was that? What was the main problem or worse?
Yeah, so for myself, it was pretty intense. Like from my perspective, I suffered from actually severe social anxiety because, like at the lowest point, I wasn't really able to go to work normally. I worked from home, and I didn't leave my house for that long, and I really had big trouble to hold eye contact. I had a lump on my throat, not only in certain situations, but like over days, over weeks. And so this was a pretty tough time for me. However, I felt like it, and other people didn't really experience that, that trauma or that pain as I felt it. So there's always, very subjective perspective of your anxiety, and I know how it feels, and it doesn't feel good. And looking back, every minute that I invested in talking about my problems and doing EFT was more than worth it. And for myself, it's changed tremendously. Like my life changed completely. It was very good before that, and then certain things happened, and I suffered from social anxiety probably over 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years maybe, and then we started to work, and I started to make progress. And I think always if you make some progress, there's a solution at the end of it. So that was quite helpful. And if I look back, it didn't take that long time, So
I just checked. Point to my laptop that's here. When I work with a client, I keep case histories. I get a client form, and also each session I make a couple of notes. It's not that much, but little summary for myself as to what we worked on, what's up, what I might ask my client about next time, or what is a topic that I still have to poke into a little bit. We had 13 sessions, so that's usually we work a week apart, but I think there was longer in between certain sessions, so I think it's more been a period over, say, 3 to 6 months. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah. Like 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah.
Like that.
And okay, so I want to know more about the actual problem. So what was it for you back then in terms of eye contact? Like what would happen when you were in a social situation
well, everything started at work actually. So especially talking to people that were like above my grade, for example, I had problems first initially just talking to them without a lump on my throat. So I would have not the normal voice. I would have this pressure here in my in this part, and then also when I hold eye contact, I would look down, I would look sideways, and it would be really weird just to hold eye contact like this. Like I would look left, I would look right, and
shifty.
and I always tried, or thought about my movements. That was the main subject in a conversation. I didn't really concentrate on what we were talking about. I was concentrating on myself. What did I do? How was my hands movement? My
Right.
hand movements? How did I like? I would ask myself these weird questions, and I would try. Okay, maybe he didn't find me that weird because I was, holding eye contact for 3 seconds, and all these questions. And if you have that, then you can't really concentrate on the conversation
Yeah.
because you have so much going around in your head that you're simultaneously have to think about, okay, what are we talking about? And
Right.
especially at work, and you know,
And you're not connecting.
no,
Right.
not at all.
Yeah.
You're
Analyzing constantly.
Right.
Am I doing a good enough job?
Right.
Is this am I being weird? Is this way the right way to come across? Should I look in that way? How do I avoid looking bad?
right.
You know.
How can I, you know, just hide what I have in myself because I am weird. Something is wrong with me. That
Right.
was a belief that was
Yeah.
deeply in myself.
Yeah.
At that point,
Right.
it wasn't that case for all my life, but at that time, I took some evidence and changed my subconscious belief. That changed my subconscious beliefs.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was just managing my anxiety.
Yeah.
I was just managing, hiding, and just trying to make a good impression to initial, or at the end, I think just to to get approval from someone.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty intense time, pretty painful time, because I think social anxiety is a really painful situation to live in, and if you don't work at it, if you don't do something, it just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You have to. I think probably each case is different, but there are some causes that are same for most of them.
Yeah.
Or most negative beliefs, for example, and you just have to work on it.
Yeah. That's right. What was like the thing that was most difficult about dealing with social anxiety, or most frustrating in your life?
Initially, it was just identifying that it was social anxiety,
Okay.
because I went to, for example, to some doctors, to some, initially I didn't even know that I had social anxiety. I just knew, okay, I was really fucked up, and I don't know if it was also a little bit depressed, and I couldn't really distinguish, okay, what
Perfectionism for sure.
perfectionism.
Yeah.
So I didn't really identify the problem, and then I just looked on Google, I just looked on YouTube, and then at some point I just saw a video of yours, and I started actually with Tony Robbins, who's also a very positive energy, and that kind of led me to believe that that I can change my life, that there is something good out there, and that it is possible to change.
Yeah.
So that was like the first bridge, and then I moved to to energy psychology, to EFT. And at the first time, I mean, I looked at it and I was like, okay, there's no point I'm doing that because it's just weird. But if you're desperate enough, then you just try it.
Right.
And I tried it, and then I saw, I was, at that time I worked in a different city in Munich in Germany, and I was at a hotel job, so I stayed over at the hotel for my work, and each evening I was sitting in the hotel room and I was practicing EFT, and you just really feel that energy is moving in your body, and that while doing it, while saying all these things, that you feel really relieved after that. And that was the starting point where you start to believe in it and start to see differences in your life.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big believer that you attract that you attract something in your life that you're that you are, the energy that you have inside of you, that you attract that. So the attraction of law, or law of attraction. So now it's better, and
Okay.
and every minute was worth it to work in it.
Good. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
What you said about EFT, like, I started trying it and I noticed things shifting in my body. Prior to that, I heard Tony Robbins, and that gave me the idea of like, wow, I really can change my life. Yeah, awesome. Good on Tony. And then you tried some tapping and you noticed shifts in your body, and that helped you realize, wow, I can actually change. Why I repeat that is because that's why I make some of these tap-along videos. These tap-along videos are not to get rid of your social anxiety once and for all. Like, I have people commenting under these videos saying, oh wow, you know, I have such a profound shift. How often do I need to tap along with this video before my social anxiety is gone forever? Yeah, it's not like that. This is just a taste of what is possible. With a tap along like that, I'm just giving you an experience of what the tapping can do. But the tapping actually needs to be applied to the right issues in the right way over a period of time. You know, your social anxiety consists of a certain amount of aspects, smaller parts. And when you say 17 or 77 smaller parts make up your social anxiety, and with tapping, you can get rid of one of them, and another, then, and another, and another, and another. And your social anxiety starts to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and get smaller and smaller and smaller. And as a result, you have more comfort, more ease, more control, emotional control, the good kind. You know, you'll feel better about yourself. You'll start to be able to actually enjoy social situations because you can connect with people, you have fun, and so on. But it's a progressive getting rid of these smaller parts. And when you apply the tapping in the right way to the right targets, then say that you have 77 parts. I'm just making this up as I go, all right? Don't get attached to the 77. Then you get rid of okay, now you only have 76. That one is not gonna come back anymore, right? So it's a matter of, okay, take away another one. Now I only have 75. Take away another one. Now I only have 74 parts making up my social anxiety. My social anxiety becomes less small. And in the beginning, that might be small, gentle changes, but sometimes you get, you know, certain parts of those 77 are this small and certain parts are this big. And when you address one of these really big ones, then you have a profound shift. And then all of a sudden you find that normally your anxiety in a social situation is 9 out of 10, and it drops to not being there, or it drops to like a 1 or 2 out of 10 in strength. So that's when you get profound shifts and changes, but you don't know which part of that's going to be. So it's a progression over time where you work on doing that. Okay, good. So you so you reached out and you had that problem, and tell me what you told me earlier about the credit card.
Just the credit card?
Yeah,
oh,
just because it's funny.
Yeah, so I went to your website, and I just thought about, you know, okay, I think you offered this 20-minute just talk, you know, intro chat, and so I said, okay, well, there's no hurt in doing that, so I signed up, and then we had the conversation, and at that time it was pretty bad, and I think you also felt that, you know, that this wasn't just, you know, you can do that in 1 or 2 sessions. It's probably takes a little bit longer. Yeah. So you just said, well, you know what, Nihat, just get your credit card, and I was like, I was thinking, okay, now he just tries to sell me.
I'm a slick salesman.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, I was really desperate for help, and I knew that if I continue life like that, that's not the life I want to live. And so I knew I had to change. I wanted to change so desperately. Yeah. And I mean, of course, we spend so much money on different things, and personal development is often a thing that you save your money most on. Like, you don't invest in personal development, but you like invest in partying and, I don't know, in different stuff. Yeah. And buying material things, but the investment that you do actually for personal development is one of the greatest investments.
Benefits you for the rest of your life. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And about the credit card, just love it.
So
Sometimes I have people reach out, and they're a bit. So I offer a free intro chat when I do, for people that are interested in one-on-one coaching, which is maybe not available anymore when you watch this video, or maybe not as readily available. Time will tell.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what I offer, and then there's a free 20-minute intro chat, and during that intro chat, I kind of gauge where the person is at. I share what I might be able to do for them, and I basically get an honest assessment. Okay, can I help this person or not? And usually that's a yes, and it felt like it was going to be a yes for this guy as well, but but when I notice, I probably noticed quite some hesitation with him, and I've had it in the past where people then they don't follow through. They're like, oh, I'll do it at some point, and blah blah blah. So I said, no, put your money where your mouth is. Send over the cash for me to get started.
Yeah, I mean, you lay it off. You don't follow through.
Right.
You just say, okay, well, one time, like, I don't know, I'll do it next week.
Yeah.
And I really committed to at least 30 minutes EFT each day. And so for me, especially during the first sessions, I mean, I talked about things that I talked about for the first time in my life, talking about acceptance, self-compassion, all those things. Like, if you would have asked me, do you accept yourself? I would say, yes, of course. I mean,
yeah, why not?
I'm a big guy,
Yeah.
But if you think about it a little longer, like, do you really accept yourself? Especially having anxiety, especially for me, it was tremendous self-criticism because of certain things that I didn't accomplish, for example. So I didn't accept myself at all. I didn't have compassion for myself at all. No, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was super hard on myself. And that, led to a crisis where it got worse and worse. And, then you experience, objectively you experience failures, and you get into those failures, and you make these failures really big, and and then your self-worth is declining, so that was pretty intense for me, and EFT was just the way to release that, because at some point in your life it's just ingrained in your body, I think. And all this energy.
Can I can I say something about what the issue was?
Sure.
Without getting?
Sure.
We can always edit it out.
Sure.
What I remember, you come from a family where achievement is high. It's an important value, and you're a smart guy, and it is often said to you as well that you're a smart guy. And so there's a certain pressure that comes with that.
Right.
And because as Nihat said, I suffered from social anxiety for 3 or 4 years, because it happened after a big breakdown, right?
Right.
And it was like a period, that breakdown was a period, a very, very difficult period. But that period itself, while we needed to address that with tapping and whatever else we used, it wasn't that period that was the actual problem. I mean, that was just an accumulation of an explosion of the crappy patterns that were going on under the surface already. And so then, when we started to address that, we end up talking about concepts like self-acceptance, self-compassion, not being so hard on yourself, getting rid of these ideas that there's something wrong with you. And it's when you're in a pretty bad way, it's a progression over time. We talked about this earlier. You tell them. You thought that it was going to be, I have to address this.
So for me, I was like on the verge of the solution. So I thought about, I'll just have to do this one thing, and then every problem is just going away. And so I really thought, okay, I have to say this one sentence, I have to change this one belief, and everything will be fine then. And so you said actually in the first session, well, it's not, you know, one. It can be maybe one session, but it's not usual that your social anxiety, you know, goes from here to zero, but it's like a constant development, you know. And so I felt that too, especially after sessions. I mean, it's like, you know, you have that wound and you pull it out, and I mean that hurts, you know. You talk about things that are not comfortable, and especially if you do the sessions, you're just, you know, your whole energy is, you know, circling around, and everything is it's pretty intense. So it can be that after a session that you're just exhausted.
Yeah.
And especially 1 or 2 days after that, it's, you know, kind of shifty. And but if you continue to do it, and if you put a lot of effort in, so actually all my spare time, like in this really hard period, all my spare time I invested in you know, EFT, in listening to podcasts, listening to different videos, doing EFT, talking about it with some persons. I didn't really, you know, talk about it in my whole friend, you know, with all my friends, but just investing time in it. And if you do that, then, you know, then ease and solutions come your way, and then you get, you know, you get release, and you move past your social anxiety and at some point. And then in a social situations like now, you just feel relaxed, you feel okay how you are, even though I still make mistakes and still have failures. And it's just a deep like ingrained belief in yourself. It's not like a conscious thought, it's rather a belief, or like a feeling. So
yeah. I'll get to the point of how you feel now and how things go, and that kind of stuff. But I remember there was a particular moment where you actually made a big shift.
yeah, negatively or
No, positively.
Positively.
Yeah. Do you remember that or not?
Well, it's
You
quite
came
a
back
lot.
and, yeah, but there was one where you came like, oh, my anxiety is gone,
Yeah.
it's all amazing, blah blah blah. And then a couple of weeks after, I was like, there's still some shit going on. But do you remember or not?
I don't remember that
Don't
session.
remember?
No.
All right. I don't know the exact details.
Yeah.
So let's leave
It's
it.
now over a
what it
year,
was.
1.5 years ago. So
Right.
yeah.
Our last session was about a year and a half ago.
Last session was I think, I don't know, 9 months ago.
9 months ago.
One year, yeah.
Okay.
But at that time, it was already a lot better than
Yeah.
it was. I
Yeah.
think we had a long pause between that.
Right.
So
Right. Because
Yeah.
sometimes there's some more things to clear up. So if we keep the same example of the 77 parts, we get rid of 67 parts, then there's still 10 little more parts to go. And you know, like you said earlier, I still have some anxiety sometimes. You know, and that's just okay. There's a little bit more to go, but
Right.
you know, anyway. So yeah, what else did I want to say about sessions themselves? You said, yeah, you know, your energy is up and you're talking about things. Yes, and it can be uncomfortable. Was it uncomfortable to the point where you couldn't handle it? Like, was it super painful? Like, because people might be, you know, thinking like, well, it's not something
Yeah.
I can handle. Like, what was it?
It was this, like, this point I can't handle it was prior to the sessions.
Okay.
So prior to reaching out for help, because I always thought, well, you know, I can handle everything and I can do that. And prior to that, because I went through a situation for 2 years where, yeah, my workplace was very toxic, I would say, and I lived in a different city. Worked very long hours, didn't have like family or friends in that city, and So it was like a toxic environment for 2 years, and after those 2 years, yeah, pretty had a like a, I don't know, like a breakdown, and I was like, it was pretty intense, and so during that time, when when I reached bottom, at some point, of course, I thought, well, I'm not sure how I can handle that. You know? And that was the time where, where I read about the problems, and I wanted, I was always curious. I knew, okay, there's something wrong here. I feel so down, and I mean, I had a lot of friends before that, and then after a period of time, I saw, okay, well, I don't, do anything with them anymore, and it was just really painful time, and I wasn't even looking for that. Like, I was trying to have less and less social interactions,
Yeah.
So that was the most painful time, and not having a solution for this problem was the most painful experience, because you feel helpless.
Right.
Yeah.
That is very scary.
So
I can remember that as well.
So that is like, okay, now I got the shit going, but I don't know how to how to solve that.
How do I get out of the misery?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was probably the most painful part, and then.
You know what? Let me
Yeah.
share something about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting, funny story. This is maybe, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and I was in the Philippines at the time, and we, when I would drink, I wouldn't have any social anxiety, so I drank a lot, a lot. And so one night we were partying, and then we took the bus at 4 a.m. after drinking, and then arrived at this island at 6-7 in the morning, then slept for 2 hours, and then we took the boat after 2 hours of sleep. My Filipino friends are hardcore travelers. They don't beat around the bush. We took this really noisy boat for 2 hours out to go to this other island where we were gonna snorkel. And I went out with my fins, and I had just learned freediving, which is where you go down on a single breath of air. Anyway, I went down, and I saw one of these fishes that, they do one, I forgot what the name of it, but they make one sweep like this, and they go really fast. And you don't usually see them that often. So I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And I went on the water, followed the fish around, did that a couple of times, super out of breath, came back, then walked to my friends, and then all of a sudden, like, it felt like I was having like an out-of-body experience, but not like a cool one, a fucking terrifying one, like a complete panic. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening to me? And I felt extremely scared. I already spoke a bit of the local language, but they were speaking Filipino amongst each other, and I felt completely disconnected from them, like they were strangers. And I was like, my heart was beating like crazy, and I had like a proper anxiety attack, like a panic attack, but I didn't know what was going on. So I'm tapping didn't work, I was hardly calming down. And then, eventually we left quite soon, and I was still having a panic attack, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes long, or at least I still felt super, super bad. And then we left, and I threw my towel into the back of the boat that we left with, or my pants or whatever it was, and then we took off. And then soon I realized, when I wanted to grab my wallet for something, that my wallet was gone. So my wallet had fallen into the water. Or no, what was it? No, I took, long story, long ago. I took my pants, and my wallet fell out of the water, fell into the water. So we stopped the boat, and I'm still freaking out, having a panic. I actually didn't care about my wallet. It's like, okay, there's money in there, there's maybe some stuff in there, but I don't care, I'm feeling really scared. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, we all go into the water to look for my freaking wallet. And that takes like 10-15 minutes. Eventually we give up, we can't find it, we go back into the boat, and I sit in the front of the boat, and my girlfriend Amy comes to me. She's like, what's going on with you? I'm like, I don't know, I just feel really, really scared and weird, and like I'm not here, and blah blah blah, and my heart's, and I'm describing the experiences. She's like, you're just having a panic attack. I have those sometimes at home. I'm like, really? And that gave me like a sense of relief. I'm like, oh, okay, there's something that, there's a name for what I'm experiencing, and it's not that I'm going completely crazy and I'm totally losing my mind here. And then later on when I got home, I looked up panic attack, and I'm like, oh my God, all those symptoms are exactly what I experienced. And then I knew what it was, right? And then I did a bit of research, then started doing sessions around that panic attacks. That was the first one that I got. And then I was afraid of scary movies for a while. Like afraid of sensitive conversations for a bit, but it didn't last that long. That's why I don't talk about it so much, because it was dealt with relatively quickly, because I now knew what it was, and now I just brought it to a practitioner and worked on it, and soon that wasn't a problem anymore. But just to relate to, like, I didn't know what I was dealing with. And also when I started working on my issues, on my anxiety and everything, I also didn't know that I had social anxiety. I just know that I felt super insecure, shame, blushing, all that kind of crap. And only later on I realized, oh, this is actual social anxiety. Wow. So it's quite helpful to know that these symptoms that you're experiencing, racing heart, lump in your throat, worrying about what people think, afraid of disapproval or rejection or embarrassing yourself, that's an actual thing that you can do something about.
Exactly. And I mean, often you feel very alone. You think you're the only person that is experiencing social anxiety in the world, and it's just not like that, because sadly there are a lot of
millions,
people,
tens of millions, hundreds of millions.
And also for me it was very relieving, or it was a big relief for me to study the anxiety in itself, like what is really happening, because at that time I just believed that something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
But those symptoms, there's nothing wrong with them.
Right.
They actually helped you or helped us for, I don't know, 10,000 of years.
Yes.
Because the anxiety was it's just a defense mechanism, It's the fight, flight, freeze response.
Yep.
So so back in the time where I don't know, for example, you saw a tiger, and you had the same symptoms, like your heart was beating faster, to put blood in your body. The blood went through your arms and feet to run faster. Your digestion was stopped. Your immune system was stopped, and that's why also people get sick a lot faster, because when they live in anxiety, your immune system is is paused.
Stress decreases your immune functioning.
Right.
Immune functioning. Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So all those things, to read about them was a little bit, for me, was a little bit of relief, that I understand, okay, what is going on.
Yeah.
And then it just comes to a certain part in your brain called the amygdala, which is like a tiny thing, which works actually just like a checklist. And if we're born as a baby, we don't have that much on the checklist. It's like I think it's heights and maybe dark things, and
fear of falling, fear of loud noises. Those are inborn. The rest is all learned.
Right. And so that also explains, okay, a baby reaches out to a candle, and the baby doesn't know that it's getting hot. So the baby learns, okay, I should do that.
Yeah.
So, and that's also related to social anxiety, because at some point we had an experience that was painful, either related to social interaction or something like that,
or not, often not.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
And then your amygdala stores it. Okay, this is not safe to be in that situation.
Yeah.
And so I learned, okay, maybe it's just something that is saved in my subconscious, and this activates all this defense mechanism. But looking at it, I can work on it, and I can redesign my subconscious. And if I do that, then there is no need to fire off the fight, flight, freeze response. So that was, for me, it was really relieving just to understand the things. because I just thought, something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
I'm just the one guy in
Right.
the world
Right.
that's weird.
In therapy land, they say
So-
what is most personal is most universal.
Yeah.
What we think is the most, nobody deals with this kind of feeling, or nobody feels like that, or nobody does this weird kind of stuff, or thinks these bizarre kind of thoughts. Well, yes, we do,
Right.
and definitely. Okay, so, all right. So how's life been since? How are things now?
Well, a lot better. I mean, of course, there are some situations where I still feel a little bit uncomfortable. There's some situations where where I don't feel natural having eye contact. So, but they're very subtle things. And right now, I haven't practiced EFT for several weeks now, and I do it once in a while when I experience a certain situation. Then I practice it, but life has since been a complete change. And like prior to the social anxiety, I would have never read a self-development book, because my belief was, what should they tell me about life? I was like arrogant and just I don't know. And since then I think I have a total different experience of life, a lot more deep and a lot more connection, like real connection, not just trying to, I don't know, to I don't know, be a good be a good person, or to experience some pleasure, but to really think about stuff and think about it deeply. And so this has changed. And besides that, I changed my job. I'm self-employed now. I created a business. I'm a founder, and I've done so many things that I probably wouldn't have done without my social anxiety. So in retrospect, all these things that I went through is now an asset, and is now something I learned from, So, and that actually, if you go through a period like that, you actually change the meaning of what you're experiencing. Because the meaning within your, when you're in social anxiety, the meaning is that's terrible and I want to get rid of it as fast as I can. But once you move past that, you look back and you realize positive things about your social anxiety, even though that sounds probably crazy when you're like in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But once you pass that, you have you have a gift actually, that you can take, and you can change your life, and just have a complete different experience in this world.
Yeah.
So the meaning is really changing.
Yeah, that's the same for me. In fact, I made a video about this not too long ago, saying you have social anxiety, that's awesome, or something something provoking like that, because it kind of forces you, if you take the opportunity to look inside yourself and heal what needs to be healed. And so you get a lot better relationship with yourself, you get a lot better relationship with other people. Like most when you're in suffering and you don't know what you're dealing with, you're unconsciously suffering. But once you become aware of the problem that you have, and you then start taking the steps to actually get rid of that problem, then once you've gotten rid of the problem, you do so much better than how you did before you had the problem. This is probably my worst explanation ever, but basically what I'm trying to say is like, most people just want, they have social anxiety and they're like, okay, I just want to not have social anxiety anymore. Yeah, all right, that's one thing, but there's so much more to just not having social anxiety anymore. Once you no longer have social anxiety, by going through that process of transformation, you'll have such a deeper life experience, so much more skill, so much more self-awareness, so much more maturity, so much more compassion, and all of that kind of stuff. and those are benefits that that you carry with you for the rest of your life. And you know, I'm 34 now, so I have a bit more perspective on this longer thing. Like when I was in my 20s, I wanted everything like quick, fix, now, you know, 2 weeks, one session, should all be gone. But now I realize, like, wow, you know, there are certain things that when I spend a year on it, or when I spend 2 or 3 years on it, that's gonna benefit me for the rest of my 60 years here, you know? Social anxiety in most cases is something like that for people. I'm not saying it takes you 3 years to overcome your social anxiety. It's usually not necessary, but I'm just saying this in general. You know, this is a problem that's worth putting your time, effort, and energy in. So
That's right.
yeah, and how do you feel when you're in a social situation? You know, when you're with other people.
Right now, or yeah, right now I'm pretty pretty relaxed. I mean, it always depends on probably sometimes on who's attending, but I feel pretty relaxed, and I, you know, concentrate now on, you know, what is being said, and I can think of there's a, like, you can probably think of, there's a little storm going on in your head, and you're just trying to fix things in that moment, and you're not really calm, and you're not really concentrating on what is being said. So this storm is now pretty much over, and I'm just a little, like, so much calmer, and so much there's so much less criticism about my person that I used to have, and that's probably the biggest,
Yeah.
the biggest.
And how does that make you feel towards yourself versus how it was?
Well, of course, a lot better. And I mean, if you're constantly, you know, thinking about your movements, thinking about what you've done right, but what you've done wrong, focusing on what you've done wrong, then of course you have a bad experience, a bad life experience, because you're constantly thinking about, okay, I didn't do this right, okay, I should have done that better.
Yeah.
And this becomes a subconscious belief that you're just not good enough. And all those things I would have never thought about these things without, you know, social anxiety. So once I addressed that, it has just relieved. It was just a big relief, and now I think more about, you know, my positive things that I did, and so yeah, it's just a different life experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, man. I'm happy for you. Good time.
And yeah, and everything, of course, I definitely have to say that, because yeah, you paved a new way, you know. So there's I mean, coaches always say, well, you did it and it was, you know, your work, but we, you know, as I call the students, we also need a coach and need a teacher that, you know, that is showing us a new way of life, you know. And I definitely have several of them, but of course our sessions were probably the biggest, you know, the biggest impact that I had on my social anxiety, because this technique really works. So,
Yeah.
So thank you again for that, and it was every minute was worth it that I invested. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you're right. David always says to me when I'm very grateful at the end of a session, he always says to me, "Okay, that's a good contract that we've got going. You do all the hard work, I get all the credit." So I stole that from him.
Yeah.
So I say that as well. But yeah, this technique and various other ones that fall under the umbrella of energy psychology really does work. It's amazing what it can do, and you know, I'm happy for you that your life has shifted around, not just in the social area, but also because, you know, your self-esteem increases and your self-compassion. You just have a nicer life experience, and then you take yourself with you everywhere you go. And so then other areas of your life can start to improve as well, you know, being self-employed and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, awesome. Well, Nice work. You've done all the hard work. Thank you for doing this. Appreciate this. It's going to help a lot of people. So awesome. Do we have anything famous to say? This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing maybe for me it was always helpful to see, to see persons that, went through it, that had the same problems, and that was also the reason why I reached out to you, because you've experienced all of that, and you took it and you did something positive with it. And so, I mean, if you have social anxiety, just keep working on it, and sometime along the way you will see differences, you will see progress, and I think progress always equals happiness. That's also a Tony Robbins saying.
Yeah.
But I really believe that, and I think once I saw progress with my social anxiety, it was the starting point. It was a complete different experience from there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just keep working on it.
Exactly. All right. Well, this was Sebastian from socialanxietysolutions.com. I also have a podcast. You might be listening to this on the podcast. If you're listening to this from the podcast, I also have a YouTube channel. That's where this video is from. If you're listening on a podcast, you're just listening to the audio. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/Sebastiaan Doc. SEBASTIAANDOC. And yeah, if you're watching this video and you want to check out the podcast, where I have tons of interviews that you don't find on my channel, you want to go to iTunes or Spotify and type in Social Anxiety Solutions. Anything else that I can pimp out right now? I have a product that I just released called Create Incredible Emotional Control. And I also have the first ever online social confidence community that is not open for registration right now. But
It's perfect marketing.
yeah,
right now.
it's fantastic marketing. I'm so good at this. Get out your credit card. No, and I have a free social confidence starter kit where you can give this a go for yourself. You can go to my website, click on Overcome SA for free, or some button that I have there, very specific, or just click the link under this video and you'll get 10 free videos where I teach you the basics of the technique and I guide you through an experience of it so you can feel those shifts and changes in your body. So take action, actually do something, click there right now, or do whatever else you want. And thanks again, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.